find the derivative of y is equal to square root of x to the fourth plus 1. We're going to let u equal to x to the fourth plus 1. Therefore, u prime will be 4x to the third. Now, f of x will be u to the 1/2. Okay. Using the general power rule, u to the n prime. So the derivative of u to the n is n u to the n minus 1 multiplied by u prime, and this is the general power rule. So remember that f prime of x will be the composite function. So f prime of x will be equal to n, which is 1/2, u to the 1/2 minus 1, n minus 1, multiplied by u prime. Now it's 1/2, and 1/2 minus 1 is 1/2 minus 1, which is 2/2. It's 1/2 minus 1. It's 1/2 minus 2/2, which is negative 1/2. Where the negative 1/2 comes from times u prime. Now using substitution, it's 1/2, and remember that u is x to the fourth plus 1. Okay. To the negative 1/2, and u prime is 4x cubed. 2 cancel itself, and 2 into 4 is 2, so it's going to be 2 x cubed. Negative exponent will go down to the denominator, so it's going to become positive. It's going to be x to the 4 plus 1 to the 1. It's 2x cubed. If we will convert, which is not really necessary, it's going to be square root x to the 4th plus 1, and that's our answer. If f of x is rewritten, so f of x is rewritten, the function becomes x squared, right? So it'll become f of x is equal to x squared times 1 minus x squared to the 1/2. So the function is in the form of uv, u times v. So u times v prime, the derivative is equal to u prime v plus uv prime, product rules. So f prime of x will be u prime, so that's 2, times v, 1 minus x squared to the 1/2 plus u, which is x to the 2nd, times v prime, 1 over 2, 1/2, times 1 minus x squared to the 1/2 minus 1, negative 1/2, times negative 2x, that's the u prime. Simplify, 2x times x squared to the 1/2. The 2 cancel each other, the negative sign stays negative, and then x squared times x will be x cubed times 1 minus x squared to the negative 1/2. Now to proceed, we can go 2 ways. We can factor out the least power, which is a little bit more challenging, or we can reconvert, and that will allow us to simplify the expression a little more. So we convert into radicals. That should be the easiest way to do it. We will rewrite f prime of x as 2x times square root of 1 minus x squared minus x cubed, and the negative exponent will go to the denominator, over square root of 1 minus x squared. Now we have 2 fractions to add together. We need to find the lowest common denominator, and the lowest common denominator between 1 and square root of 1 minus x squared is 1 minus x squared. Okay, so now convert into equivalent fraction. We need to multiply the first one by the lowest common denominator, which is square root of 1 minus x squared. So we ended up with 2x, and square root of x, 1 minus x squared times square root of 1 minus x squared will be just 1 minus x squared over square root of 1 minus x squared. And for the second one, we just have to multiply by 1 since it has the lowest common denominator, so it's negative x. All we need to do now is simplify, and that's it. Not hard at all. Maybe 2x using distribution, 2x minus 2x cubed minus x cubed divided by square root of 1 minus x squared. Simplify. It's 2x minus 3x cubed over square root of 1 minus x squared. And in some books they would factor x, so let's just do it. X times 2 minus 3x squared over square root of 1 minus x squared. And that's our answer. Now, here's a more challenging way to do it. We're going to factor out the least power. Remember, when you're dealing with exponent, the base with the least power, if two bases are the same, is the greatest common factor. So let's look at an example. If we have x squared and x, which is x to the first, and we're looking for the GCF, well, the GCF is x to the first. Now, here's something that is kind of tricky. If we have x squared and x to the negative 1, and we're looking for the GCF, well, it's x to the negative 1. Why? Well, because x squared is equal to x to the negative 1 times x to the third, because when we multiply, we add the exponent. And x to the negative 1, well, is x to the negative 1. So the GCF is x to the negative 1. Greatest common factor. Okay. And it's always the least power. Now we'll keep this in mind, and we're going to factor the derivative. Now, we're going to factor the derivative. I'm writing it again because it will allow us to see what we're doing. Less confusion. Okay. Now we need to find the greatest common factor between x and x cubed. It's going to be x. Now, the greatest common factor between 1 minus x squared to the 1/2 and 1 minus x squared to the negative 1/2. The least power will be, the expression with the least power will be our GCF, the base with the least power, which is 1 minus x squared to the negative 1/2. Now we need to find the other factor. Well, for 2x we have 1x, we need a 2, so it's going to be 2. This one is an easy one. Now for 1 minus x squared to the 1/2, because we need 1/2 when we multiply together, the base will stay the same, but the exponent will be 1, because 1 plus negative 1/2, well, it's 1/2 that we have here. So the exponent is 1, and then between, we need an x squared, because x times x squared is x to the third, and we need a 1 because this is the GCF. So only 1 will allow us to get the same base with the same exponent. X times 1 minus x squared to the negative 1/2, and we can simplify. It's 2 times negative 2x squared. 2 times 1 and 2 times negative x squared, so it's 2 negative 2x squared negative x squared. X times well, we kick the negative exponent to the denominator, and then 2 minus 3x squared close the parentheses. It's gonna be x times 2 minus 3x squared close the parentheses, and we can reconvert. As you can see, we have the same answer, but this method requires a little more understanding.